Hello, everybody. Welcome to one of the most loveliest episodes that you'll come across with me at CEO Chronicles. My name is Diksha Vora. I am your content queen, and with me is Doc Michelle. Now, Doc Michelle doesn't need a lot of introduction, but still, I'll tell you who she is. She is a PhD in leadership skills, so she helps people understand what makes them great leaders. Second, she has done retail all her life. She says that if you actually slit my nerves, you will only get retail. So experience in retail, and guess what? She is actually a grandmother of 10 children. At this age, imagine how beautiful she looks. I wonder if I were to age one day, I would even look half as graceful and as appealing as you do, Doc. So
Thank you.
so today we have her, and she's going to be spilling the beans on a lot of leadership and business techniques. So welcome on board, Doc Michelle.
Thank you very much. And it's super exciting to be here with you. And just thank you for the honor just to give a female voice a bit of shout out there, and just to say, hey, you know what, us women, we can rise up and be something that we're meant to be, and our design, our specific design. So thank you for this opportunity.
Most welcome, anytime. So, Doc, you happen to be the first woman that's going to be featuring on my show. Okay. And I think that is where we'll start from. Being a woman and being an entrepreneur, being someone who's worked all her life, someone who's done her PhD, someone who's balanced family, etc., all of these things. Let's now talk about, when did you start working? Okay. And when did you start your first business? And what really prompted you to start something of your own?
Sure. I started working at the age of 18 years old. So I started very, very, very young. And it was very difficult when I first started, because we're talking many, many, many years ago. Okay. And as you quite rightly said, a grandmother of 10, and my eldest grandchild is 21. So I'm really showing you my age now.
My goodness.
So we're talking easy 40 plus years ago, when I first started. And women specifically in those days could only get jobs that were either a clerk or a receptionist, anything behind the scenes other than up front if they wanted to portray, because men didn't, in South Africa, you didn't get men who were receptionists and that kind of thing, not like you do nowadays. So that's where it started. But I sat there observing this male-dominated world, and I kept saying, surely we can fit in here. Surely there's space for us. Why can't women make money the same as men? And I started just asking those questions to myself. And that's when I thought, hold on a second, maybe, just maybe I need to start looking at what I can do outside of what I was currently doing. And that is the thing that most of us are so scared of, because we can't afford to give up your day job in order to create something outside of what we're doing. Most people think, you know what I've got to do is I have to actually give up what I'm doing in order to create new wealth. And that's not the truth. We need to understand that it's how do we evolve the two together. And yeah, and that's how I got into the retail space, by looking and learning and making sure that at every corner, what is it that I don't have a certificate for that I can get a certificate for? So even as a receptionist, I would ask, is there in the company a certificate to be a dispatch clerk? Okay. And they would say, yes, there's a certain model. And I would go and do that. I'd say, please, can I volunteer for the next course? And that's how I started growing my skills to understand that business is a holistic environment, and we can't hone in on just one thing. So yes, I started in the retail space from 18 years, and I left the retail space only in my late 30s. So I was in retail 20, I think it was close to 22 years.
Wow, 22 years. So let's actually start off with talking about your experience in retail, okay? And see, I'll tell you what I feel, that retail businesses are very hard to scale up. Okay.
Mm,
Because you have so much competition. You
mm,
don't only have competition from the local competitors, the people with smaller shops, you also have competition from bigger giants. How
mm.
true or false is my assumption?
And even more so now, because you don't just have that, you have your online version of retailers now as well. So
Yeah.
you've got to compete with all of this. And I learned, one of the things that I learned is some people say what you need to do is identify your target market. What is your avatar? Who's your client? And then only sell to your client. But what happens if there's that moment in time when your product is not going to suit your client because you're trying to venture out? And so it's so important. And we learn about this, but most retailers actually don't do this one simple thing. And that is, what is your competitive study? Do you do your competitive study? Are you physically doing that? How we did it in our days is we literally left our store, we walked down the road, we walked into our competitors, we studied them, we looked to see, okay, between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the morning, if they were early stores, because some of
Yeah.
the stores
Yeah.
opened at 6,
Yeah.
how many feet do they get through? If they've got X amount of feet. So we would have someone, a staff member, go and count, because and nowadays it's easy because you can, you can put a counter at your front door and technology is a little bit more advanced. But in our
Mm.
day, we physically stood. And you know what was nice about that is you observed what the customers wore, how old they were. It wasn't a statistic on a piece of paper. That's the
Sure.
mistake I
Sure.
believe retailers are making at the
Yes.
moment. We're
Yes.
looking at statistic on paper, but we're not
Mm.
connecting with the actual human being that physically is shopping in our store. And if
Agreed.
we go back to the basics, I always say, go
Mm.
back to basics
Yes.
and understand what is your competitive edge,
Yes.
and then do something slightly different. So for me, that is what, I don't care how big you are, how small you are. If you
Mm.
want to take the edge, you need to know what your competitor is doing, when are they doing it, and where can you slip in that's different to them. And then you're going to make it successful. Online, offline, doesn't matter. Big store, small store, keep it simple. Go back to basics.
Okay. Talking about this itself, I see, I'm in agreement with you. I think competitor analysis um, is really important. And to be honest, in today's date, it's a lot easier. Okay, let's
Mhm.
talk about the online stores and so on. You can literally just go to a portal, you can place an order, just even, in fact, even evaluate the whole customer journey, the experience. How are people responding to you on calls? What extra are they offering, and so on and so forth. So, competitor analysis is one really important thing. The other challenge, however, with retail industries is that they have very little margins, okay,
Yes.
that they're making on top of every single sale. And with so much competition, what do you think? How can retailers develop their blue ocean strategy?
And again, it goes back to, what is your niche? Where sometimes as retailers, if you look at retailers, they sometimes try to go too wide. And
Right.
I remember specifically, yes, and I still said it. And when we actually left, and I go back into those same stores today, they have dropped their basic items.
Yes.
What made you? What is the
Mhm.
one thing that people knew you for?
Mhm.
So is it t-shirts? All right. Is it black t-shirts? Is it white t-shirts? Was it because you had colored t-shirts? Was it because you said two for the price of one?
Mhm.
What was it? Did you allow, and this is again something that we did, and we sold t-shirts like hotcakes.
Dog.
Okay. And
I could.
I don't see this happening again. When
Sure.
you get two for the price of one, it is two ladies' t-shirts for the price of one.
Yeah.
Why are we not going back to the family? Why
Right.
can somebody not buy one man's t-shirt,
Right.
one lady's t-shirt for the price of one? Or why can't I buy a mother's t-shirt and a child's t-shirt for the price of one? You will sell t-shirts like you cannot believe. Because why? You made it about the family and not about how much money you can make.
See, this I'm with you, okay, that you have to think about families. So I mean, of course, retailers really have to push themselves and go back to basics, think about what made them, and also now think about how they could relate to a similar audience with that. But you know what, when you brought up this whole family topic, it brought up something that we had originally discussed, that was about this whole feminine energy to workspace. Now, I bet you a lot of men, and I'm sorry if anyone feels offended, please don't write me hate mails, but it's not natural for men to go out and instantly think about family. That, you know, okay,
Yes,
I'm going to be clubbing something with something else. Now, even with
yes.
my experience, okay, with me scaling up my business and you know, this my involvement with BNI as such, you know, I've been told that, hey, you know, why do you think that, you know, your business has done better? And I'm never able to put it down into words, but I think when we discussed last, I did realize that there's a need for feminine energy in
Mm-hmm.
business, which a lot of males around us, because we are in a patriarchal society, let's
Yes,
let's face it,
yes.
okay, and
You
that
said it.
that is not given so much importance, and we
Yeah.
don't in fact shed so much light on it, okay.
Yeah.
So one, second is, how important is it to have two schools of thought, okay, and two energies coming together and building something, okay. I think that
Mm.
actually
So
takes,
important.
it's so important to, we see in families, you have a mother and you have a father. Of course, there are single parents. Of course, there
Mm-hmm.
are people who are raising their children. But again, you know, we always advocate that, you know, you should have a balance of both, or a mix of wherever
Mm.
possible. You know, whoever
Yes.
can and whoever wants to, you know, may have that. Even in business, I think that is really important.
Mm. I totally agree with you. And just to say to everybody, I was a single mom for 9 years. So I totally understand what it is to be just shopping as a mom and looking after kids. That's why to buy one t-shirt for me and one for my daughter would have been bonus, because that would have meant a lot to me. So going back to the fact that we need both energies. So let's take retail. Retail is predominantly a male's environment. Okay,
Absolutely.
it is. It is. It's predominantly, and I know because I fought the boys' club, lived in the boys' club, grew up the boys' club, climbed up the ladder with the boys' club. All right. And it was because, one, we have to teach them to understand that I'm going to come into anything that we talk about. So I'm going to bring my collaboration, which
Yeah.
men love. Men are very good at collaborating. All right.
Yes. Yes.
But when I come with my collaboration, I have to warn you, I'm going to come with empathy,
Yes.
because collaboration and empathy is going to come together. So you're going to get, like, for example, we've just spoken about the collaboration of selling t-shirts. How do you want to sell more
Yes.
t-shirts?
Yes.
Immediately, I come with the empathy side of seeing it. So don't minimize women in the boardroom when they come with these kind of ideas.
Mhm.
Always understand the empath side of the woman, the feminine energy side will always come to the fore. So
Mhm.
don't minimize it, acknowledge it, and see how does it fit. And us women also need to be very cautious. And I'm a highly emotional individual.
Yes.
Trust me, my
Yes.
profiling, my everything is emotional. So
Yes.
just because when I'm extremely passionate, in fact, just before we got on this call, my husband and I had a moment of like realizing, okay, this is how we're going to go with our online marketing company. This is what we're going to do. Immediately, I felt we were winning. Guess what happened? I started getting tears in my eyes. Now,
Oh.
that is not an emotional, it's not a sign of emotional weakness. In the boardroom, sadly, it's seen as an emotional weakness.
Yes.
But you know what? It is the combination of authenticity and vulnerability.
Yes.
The vulnerability of a woman, because of the empathy, kicks in. Now, men see this as weakness, but you know what? If you have a woman in your boardroom and you come up with something profound, I'm telling you, if there's tears in your eyes, I'm telling you, and if I could swear right now, I would swear right now so that you understand. I'm going to tell you to effing run with that idea, because that is your winner. Instead of pushing her out of the boardroom and saying, there she goes, she's emotional again. No, listen to that intuition, because a woman naturally, especially if she's a passionate, outgoing woman, and one that's quieter and more of an introvert, the quieter she gets, and if she backs off in the boardroom like this, I'm telling you, listen to what she is saying, because
Yeah.
that's the feminine energy that's confirming with intuition and EQ that we overlook a lot at. So we've got to look at that collaboration and empathy. We have to look at that authenticity and vulnerability. We need to look at the intuition and the emotional intelligence, because you have a lot of men with emotional intelligence, but they
Yes.
don't have intuition. And
Yes.
just the other day, again, Anthony was talking about something and talking about this person he's coaching, not telling me the details, but just talking about the individual and just bouncing off the concept with me. And immediately it was like, you know what? I'm getting that little feeling, this, and this, and I think you need to do this, and this. He thought about it. He went and he gave it to one of his colleagues. They spoke it off. And the first thing the colleague came back, because he taps into the feminine energy, and you might know exactly who I'm talking about. He's really clued in as a male to feminine energy. And the first thing he said was, wow, I cannot believe Michelle's intuition. You see, we got to listen for this. And you know what? It's education. It's not going to come easy. It's not, especially in a male dominated environment. And I'll give you a person case study as a woman. If any woman wants to study this, and men, go study Sarah Blakely. Sarah Blakely, very interesting lady, and how she learned to build up her empire with this, which is called Spanx, Spanx. Spanx is her organization. And she learned it by going into the male boardroom and understanding how the masculine energy works, so that she could bring her feminine energy to complete. And she runs $1 billion company today, because she learned the secret to educate how I function, and the way I function is not bad.
See, I'll tell you what, this is where my problem comes. Even with me, I do realize that when I took over I started my firm and so on, I really had to push myself to think like a man, okay, and then develop those male energies, or what's it, factors, etc., of in workplace, in terms of dominance, control, streamlining everything, strategic checks, and so on and so forth. I actually surrounded myself with very capable men, because I used to think that, okay, if I would sit with them, I'll be able to think like them, and I'll be able to develop myself in a similar manner. However, I it is only up until very late that I realized, and I was told by one of my business coaches that, Diksha, you have to be generous. You have to have empathy, and you can't just be a taskmaster always. And I was like,
Always.
okay, this was me at one point in time, but I believe that I have to crush this these instincts of mine and develop something else, because this is how people succeeded. And to be honest, Michelle, I think it goes on differently, because this is how when people accept you today as a woman. If you're not bold, if you're not out there, if you're not doing masculine things, you're not accepted as someone serious in business. It is taken as if what you're doing is a hobby, And
Mhm.
because you're not out there getting things, being ambitious, that's it.
You know, I learned this many years ago, and yes, I hear what you're saying. It's so true. But you know what men fall in love with? Men fall
No
in
man's
love
fallen
with,
in love with me, so I don't know.
and I'm talking about or they endeared. Let's use the
Oh,
different
they
word. They
endure. Okay,
endeared.
this is
They endeared towards.
yeah.
Men are wired to be endeared towards femininity.
Yeah.
So the more as strong as you are, the more feminine you can come across, the more they buy into you and they listen to you. And it's so true. And I've seen it so often where I've been into boardrooms, and I've actually literally had to take some women aside and say, you know what? I can, first and foremost, you never speak into anyone's life without their permission.
Sure.
Always understand that. All right. Always ask permission. So I would ask permission. Could I just add some value to your life from a woman's perspective? All right. And they would say yes. Most, yeah, okay. And say, look, do you want to get taken more seriously? All I'm going to say to you is, why don't you just wear a little bit of makeup? I don't want you to wear a lot of makeup. All I want you to do is put mascara on and some lipstick. I don't want you to wear red lipstick. I want you to wear a natural colored lipstick. Okay. The next time we do a board meeting, the next board meeting, they come in and they do just those two things. Do you know how many men listen to them? It's just a thing. That's how we've been wired. All
Yeah.
right. And then, but then when you speak as a woman,
Mm.
one, you need to speak with empathy,
Mm.
but speak with authority.
Mm.
Okay, so it's not the shouting, it's when you speak, you must know what you're saying and you
Yes.
must get to the point. All
Yeah.
right. The moment you as a woman start going round in circles, you see the men roll their eyes at men when they go round in circles or tell long stories. Now, I'm a storyteller, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to learn to get to the point.
Mm.
Okay. And so that is what I would say is just understand. I know I really do not mean this to be stereotyping women, and by all means, if you don't want to do that, it's fine. And if you're highly successful in the corporate environment as you are without anything, then continue to do what
Finish
you're
doing what?
doing,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Mm.
you're doing something different that you have mastered from a feminine perspective. All
Yes.
right, which means that you might not wear makeup, but you might be able to command authority. But if
Mm.
you're not commanding authority and you feel you're being walked over, you need to do something different. And some appearance always makes that immediate
Mm.
difference. Do you know what I'm saying? It's
Yep.
that
Yep.
immediate difference.
Absolutely.
Whereas the other stuff is going to come over time. Authenticity comes over time. Vulnerability
Mm.
comes over time. Collaboration can come very quickly. But empathy, for them to see that you're empathetic, is going to take time. And I'm talking about that quick difference. So please, as you said earlier on, don't write us hate mails. We could be
Absolutely.
totally off the pat, but
Yes.
this is what I've seen. So this is from my perspective and my experience in the retail environment, especially. But then again, I was in the clothing industry, so I was in the fashion industry. So
Of
for me, it
course.
worked that way. And then with my team, working with my team, as a woman, how I became very successful with my team and was able to grow teams that, I mean, there were other departments that were so jealous of my teams that they would like really try and cause trouble with us, because we always had, I believe in high performance, high energy teams. Um, and I would say every single day to myself, who am I going to allow to fail today, but not allow them to feel like a failure? In other words, you give people permission to make mistakes so that you are in a position. And that's what leadership is about. Leadership is about people work. Leadership is about how do I help somebody become a better person. We think leadership is a title. Leadership is not a title. Just because you're a CEO does not mean you're a leader. It means
Absolutely.
you're a damn good manager,
Yeah.
because management is paperwork and systems.
Yeah.
Leadership is people work. So if you want to be a good leader, you need to develop people and allow people to fail forward. And when they fail, just ask them, how did they feel? Because you see, that's the empathy that's coming. Not, oh gosh, there you go again. You cannot get anything right. Okay. Bring the feminine energy in and not the masculine energy in.
Absolutely, absolutely. That brings me to my next question. You're someone who has, studied leadership through and throughout. And you're
Yeah.
also someone who comes from the space of women in business.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me some of the common myths, okay, about women in leadership that are not true.
So you give me a myth that you've heard, and I will tell you that it's not
Okay,
true.
brilliant. First is women cannot scale up business because they're not able, they're not that money minded. They can't
Okay.
do 2 + 2 and 4 and sell something
Love
4
it.
and make it 8 or 10. That.
And you know what? In the general sphere of things, that's actually the truth. All right. And the reason being is because we don't raise women to look after the household budget.
Right.
Okay, we don't. All right. We raise the boys to do it. And so I challenge everybody who's actually listening. Do you actually have a household budget? Do you know what that household budget is doing? Because if you don't, how are you going to plan for your financial future? All right. So generally speaking, it is something that everybody needs to learn how to do. All right. However, specifically, if you think in general, most homes, the son will always get taught these skills, not the woman, okay, or the daughter. All right. And it's something we need to learn. So, therefore, knowing this is something that I had to learn. All right. I had to go out there because my dad raised us, and he's got there's 4 daughters. He raised us all to say, you know what? I have a company. It will look after you all one day. But you know what? You just need to get married. I'm not going to allow you to study further. You're not going to go to university, and you'll come and work in my company as the accountant or the bookkeeper, not actually even the accountant, just the bookkeeper. And then we hand the things over to the more skilled accountants. So we didn't learn these things, and we left school and we didn't even know how to fill in those days a checkbook. We didn't know how to balance a check account. All right. Because for him, it was the male's job to do. Now, with us evolving, more and more of us women are learning this skill. But it is a skill, and this is where we need mentors. Everybody needs a mentor. And if you're not strong in an area, so I have a financial mentor, I have a physical mentor, I have a spiritual mentor, I even have an emotional mentor. Okay, because each person is specialized in these areas and they will help me. So you need to go and say, so for example, I'm a wealth coach now specifically for women.
Yes.
Because I believe they need to learn exactly how to work with money and how to make money scalable. Once we do that, we have the mindset, we've learned the skill, we can then take it into the workplace. So you're right in what you're saying. So it's not really, it's a myth with a bit of truth that's been attached to it only because of how women have been dealt with in the workplace.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Okay, now I am really passionate about wealth creation for women. We've talked about it. I think there are enough and more articles about how women should have start thinking about wealth, maybe even having separate check accounts and so on and so forth. You did mention to me a story wherein Doc Ant had been shot, and you were quite disheveled, not knowing what needs to be done. So obviously, for these unforeseen circumstances, one needs to think about wealth creation on the side. So firstly, tell me some of the things that you have applied in your own life which have helped you create wealth for yourself, and how did you do it?
Well, when I first started, as you mentioned, my husband got shot. So Doc Anthony got shot. And at that point, we had a combined check account and I had a credit card in my name. And that credit card equated to US dollars, it's just going to be the easiest for everybody, was about 350 US dollars, which means absolutely nothing. All right. It was just an emergency in case I had a flat tire with my vehicle or whatever it might be. Had he passed away,
God forbid.
there is, God forbid, and really honestly, he didn't, and he's still with us, and I'm extremely grateful for that moment. The state would have come in and taken everything.
Yeah.
And I would have been left with nothing. And at that time, I wasn't even a trainer, a coach, or anything. I was just the wife that I was told to raise to be. And all I did was all the admin in the background and made sure he was a great man and a great teacher. And that's all I did. Okay. But the reality was, oh my goodness, I want you to think about this. If you can take your financial expenses, your monthly expenses, and I want you to multiply that by 10, how much debt would you be in? Well, that's what happened to us because he was the one that brought the finances into the household. That's when I realized we had to do something different. So I read a book by Kim Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki's wife, and I thought, you know what? The smallest advice that she gave me was always start small and grow. Do not take you the money that is your bread and milk money and you can't survive. Okay. And so now what I do teach is I say to people, where can you find, and in South African rands, it would be 1,000 rands. So it would be about $1,100 a month to grow your portfolio. If you've got nothing, then that's what I suggest you do. You've got to start somewhere. But again, you need a coach. You're not going to have consistency and you're not going to be able to survive through the process if you don't have a coach. All right. So that is what I would suggest. And that's the first thing, first and foremost. For those that have finances, what I do is I actually say it's about taking control of your financial destiny. Do you know what your financial destiny is? Do you know what you would like your financial destiny to be? So, for example, I start off with a 10-year timeline. And I say to you, if you had to say today being the 4th of July, today I have X amount of percentage that is my active income, X amount of percentage is my passive income, my residual income. Most of us are going to say that 100% of our income is active, which means no work, no pay. COVID taught us this, all right? And I'm going to say to you, 5 years ago, what was your percentage? And if you continue to do what you did 5 years ago, in 5 years from now, is it going to change? And that's not taking care of your financial destiny.
Yeah.
That's what I do. So now I work off a 5-4-5-5 strategy and love to work with that. And I'm just going to take a sip of water quickly.
Please do. Please do. So the thing is, Michelle rightly said, we obviously need to take control of our financial destiny. And obviously we need to inculcate a habit of, keeping some money aside. Now, the thing is, generally women are expected, and they naturally even are just involved in saving. They don't invest.
Yes.
Okay? Which is, I think, because again, I'm coming to this. So especially when I talk to my dad about investments, he is extremely weary. So my dad comes from a very, very, very risk-free mentality, wherein he's like, oh, no, what if we lose our money? What if this happens? What if that? He is right in his own stand. But me being a daughter and me going to him for advice, and so it kind of puts me at this pedestal where then I only have active income. I have no passive income, because the thing is, I'm going to him, he says no, it's not worth it, and then this whole thing, oh my god, what if I invest, what if I lose, what's it gonna be, harm, it's money, oh my god, and so on and so forth. So how can women basically start investing, because just saving is not money growth. That's one. Second is, how is it that we make certain prudent initial choices, so we somehow gain the confidence to understand where to invest, how to invest, when to invest?
I absolutely love what you're saying, and it's so true. And this is where it goes back to, you need a financial coach. You need someone who's been there before. So I give you my journey. I started off with nothing, all right? And then I started going into certain spaces. I've been into property. For me, property didn't work, but for somebody else, property is really good. So it depends on the type of property you want to go into and that kind of thing. If you already have a bit of a slush fund to accommodate the losses in property to start off with, it's a really good place to start. But if you don't, you need to start looking at other places. Now, I am, believe it or not, a massive advocate for cryptocurrency. Now, the moment I say that, most people are going to say, oh my word, now that's so high risk, it's ridiculous. Yes, it is, but so is property.
Yes.
Anything we go into is going to have a risk. So you need to weigh the risk. So what I've done now is I help people create 7 streams of income. And by doing that, we negate the risk, or we accommodate for the risk that is going to happen. If you came to me, I'm not going to say to you, get into cryptocurrency. I personally have been living off cryptocurrency every single month since the year 2017. I've been in cryptocurrency since 2014. Okay. Did I lose money in crypto? Absolutely, I did. Okay. Like seriously, where you have those intense conversations with your spouse. All right. That bad. But I learned from it. And that's what I'm saying. Learn from people who have been there before. Okay. Identify what it is. And it is about, how do I get into a space that is low risk entry level? All right. And that's where I always start people. I start people by saying, let's look at what is the solution for you to go an entry level. And every person, I don't believe in putting a single soul into anything unless I've had a one-on-one conversation. Where are you at? Where would you like to go? What is your cash flow situation like now? Because I need to say, okay, you need to start somewhere, but if you've got no cash flow, what are you going to do? All right. What are you good at? What are you skilled at? Now, my friend bakes. All right. So she's cooking, she's baking. So I say to her, all right, 10%, and I learned this, and you call it your financial freedom account. 10% of every single cent that comes into your house, you put it into your 10% jar. 10%. So at the end of the day, you take your wallet and you take 10% out of your wallet and you put it there until you've accumulated the amount that you need to start. So my entry level program is $33, and that is for South Africans 850 Rand. So that's where I say, where can you save? If you think about this, Diksha, so many people say they've got no money to invest. Yes. I challenge you on this. So I'm going to use South African Rands because I only know South African Rands. All right. So I go to the workplace every single day. On my way to work, I buy myself a cup of coffee. I pay for that cup of coffee 30 Rand. All right. So now I say to you 30 Rand. Let's say you go to work 5 days a week. All right. I times that by 5. That's 150 Rand a week that is not necessary for you to have. You're doing it because it's a habit, but it's a habit of expenses. It's not a habit of financial freedom.
Absolutely. Rightly.
Okay. So you times that by 4, that's 600 Rand. And all I'm asking you to do is find 850 Rand a month to start your portfolio. You see, all of us, it depends on how serious you are about putting your money into safe investments. I only put, in fact, my first company that I work with actually is a company based in Dubai. You won't believe it or not.
Really?
All right.
Interesting.
Yes, because I know the integrity behind the members of your community. Do you know what I'm saying? They are not they know the risk of ripping someone off. They know the risk.
Yes.
So the first company I use is actually a Dubai company, and that's the one I say, because I know that this group of gentlemen are wise businessmen that have already know how to make $1 billion. All right. They're wealthy men. It's a group of 12 of them. And if they say, listen, and they know that what they do is they take venture capital and they put it one side, and they say, we've got more than enough for ourselves. So how do we help the everyday person get involved? And so my entry level is with a company that is based in Dubai. And then from there, we venture out. And I'm never, only when you've got more than enough money for yourself that you can overflow blessings upon others, will I tell you to get into the cryptocurrency space.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to tell anybody to get there. All right? But I will tell you which ones to invest in if you really want to. But I'm going to tell you, do not trade cryptocurrency unless you're really good at it. All right. But it's a lovely space, and I love it. And my XX BMW has BTC paid, which means it's been paid by Bitcoin. And so I drive around in that. So I'm enjoying it. But what I'm saying is every one of us can find
somewhere or the other to save and invest and grow. That is right.
Okay.
Well,
start small.
Start small. I am totally in with this 7th stream of income program, and maybe we could have another episode where we actually talk about what are the 7 streams and so on. Okay. My concluding question, okay, for today's CEO Chronicles, and I absolutely don't want this discussion to end, but because we do have a timeline to follow, what is one advice that is really, really close to your heart? And you've contributed to different books. You've helped Dr. Ant with the one that he did, and talking about finance and business and so on. Someone, say a women entrepreneur who's managing family and work. What is your advice to her? One advice that you think changed your life and that you think would change their life too.
It's the oxymoron of a balanced life. Okay. It's the hardest thing to do. But at the end of the day, one thing we must be very grateful for is that tomorrow I've got a job to go to. So therefore, I don't have to finish all my work today. Do I have deadlines I need to meet? Yes, I do. But leave your work at home so that leave your work at work. So when you get home, you do not have to work. If you have to, because of a deadline, communicate and get permission from your family of when you can work. Don't make the assumption that they're happy with it.
Nice. I think this is where we mostly mess things up, including me. For me, I'm like, oh, I'm just working, and I believe that they'll understand. And but yeah, communicating, taking consent, understanding what time is important. Yes, that's true. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for such an engaging, beautiful conversation. I think we touched on so many different aspects, right from understanding how to scale up retail businesses with attention to detail, checking out competitors and so on, to then going into feminine energy, into workplaces, and then actually getting into female wealth generation for them. We covered a bit. Thank you so much for being with me, and I do hope that our viewers find something of value. So, guys and girls, if you want to get in touch with Dr. Michelle and actually even explore her wealth creation program, get in touch with her on LinkedIn. She is on there. The links, etc., will be popped down in the description below. Please check. And if at all you're not able to get through to her, my email address is there. You can email me. I can connect you to her. And up until next week, we have another brilliant speaker talking about scaling up businesses and so on. And until then, have a great rest of the week. Keep learning, keep thriving, keep growing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care. God bless.